forgiveness is actually you forgiving you. But the more empowering step is to forgive yourself for not seeing it coming, forgiving yourself for being naive, forgiving yourself for being innocent.
When I think I have some problem with somebody or some situation, I sit with it for long enough until I see the truth of it, which is that there's some part of me inside that has a problem. When you get to peace with that part of it, the outside, it just resolves itself because it's only a reflection.
Because you can't give someone else grace you don't give yourself. And to me, mastering that game is mastering the art of living. Yo, what's up everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Stay Grounded on the topic of forgiveness. I've been wanting to record a deep dive on the subject. One, because forgiveness comes back to being one of the most powerful technologies of life that I have utilized, discovered, worked with to clear so much energy, to clear so much resentment, to clear so much hurt, to clear so much shame, to clear so much of the patterns that keep me stuck inside of cycles of suffering. You know, I really believe that forgiveness as a tool, as a skill set, as a practice, is a master technology. It's a master tool set to really not just create harmony in your relationships, but also deeply connect to the truth of who you are, and specifically self-forgiveness. I'm going to talk a lot about that on this week's episode because most of us are seeing forgiveness as a tool for the other. It's like something that you do outside of you. I must forgive this person. I must be forgiven for these things. And it's like a very external relationship. And what I'm finding to be really important to switch as a frame is forgiveness is actually you forgiving you. And that relationship of you to you and combining forgiveness with it changes the entire experience of it. And it allows for forgiveness to actually mean something much bigger. And in that bigness, there's immense levels of freedom. So I'm excited to dive into this with you. And Alex, thanks for being here, brother.
Raj, forgiveness is it's a big topic. And everyone has to do it all the time. And I guess they don't have to do it, but I think it's healthy to do it. And so where does it come up for you most in your life? What area of life does it come up most for you in?
My patterns and where I feel like my judgments. So if I feel like I have a heavier than normal inner critic. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, I feel like I take an immense level of responsibility for hurting people or saying the wrong thing, or like when I advocate for myself, there's like a guilt that shows up. And in many ways, like I'm always asking for forgiveness from other people. And that's been a common theme of like, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me for being too much. Oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me for not saying this perfectly. Oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And that has utility. But where I'm finding most healing right now in my life, and not just healing, but transformation and alchemy and love, is like flipping it inward and looking at, okay, like my little child. Like if I look at myself as multiple dimensional, right? Like, so I believe I have an inner child, and then I have a higher self, and I have many parts that are advocating for my needs, protecting me from danger. And this is a very intricate system of personalities and archetypes inside me. Being able to facilitate forgiveness between the different parts and archetypes inside of me has been the most liberating experience of them all. Like, I actually don't need to forgive someone else for betraying me. That is a part of the process, sure. It's part of like letting go. It's almost like maybe the final step. Mm-hmm. The final step is letting go of the person and letting go of resentment towards the person. But the more empowering step and the more important step is to forgive yourself for not seeing it coming, forgiving yourself for being naive, forgiving yourself for, being innocent. And I know that sounds silly, but when you actually start to look at yourself through the lens of these parts, like there is a part of you that, and I go back to like childhood, right? Like a lot of us are carrying so much resentment towards family members or parents or communities because they couldn't do or provide or care for you in the ways that you needed. And the way I like to flip that is, okay, if I always have a higher self, an inner parent inside of me, can I ask for forgiveness from that part of me for not holding me when I was young? Instead of it being about somebody else, can I find the part within me and come to peace and resolution and forgiveness between those parts, and then come into right relationship of how I am going to parent my inner child moving forward, how I am going to protect my heart moving forward, how I am going to be there for me in the ways that I so desperately crave from other people moving forward. How am I going to choose myself? When I complete that loop and I go into forgiveness here, it's like I can get to a level of forgiveness for others so much easier, and it's actually not about them. They are just a mirror for where can I come into deeper relationship of forgiveness with myself. And if I zoom out and really look at life through that lens of forgiveness, now all of a sudden I can see that there's never anything to be forgiven. Everything was about coming into right relationship with myself. And I called in these people, these experiences, everyone into my life to help me remember that. And when I do that, there's so much freedom. And that's how I'm really leaning into forgiveness right now. Like I just see so much possibility by even the Ho'oponopono prayer. Like I've been really directing Ho'oponopono towards myself. If I want to forgive another person, I actually find the part of me that I want to forgive. And it takes a practice. It takes humility. It takes softening. It takes surrendering of that ego. It takes a few reps to get to that place, but I think that is the North Star. If you can get to a place of not even needing to forgive another, but first come into forgiveness with yourself, then from there, do whatever forgiveness, acceptance, letting go of the other. But the energetic is inside of you, and you're creating all of the experiences in your life. You're calling in all the experiences. So to not take ownership of yourself, in some ways, like me forgiving myself is me doubling down on the fact that I am creating my reality. And it's feeding that frame, which is incredibly empowering, and it gives me more choice and opportunity to wield my life the way I want to.
Yeah. I think Sadhguru says, it's all an inside job. And
yeah, inner engineering.
It's inner engineering. And it's interesting that our initial reaction is always external. I find for me, it's like this person did this and this happened and this thing over here. When in reality, if I go inside, if I go internal, and I do forgive those parts of me, and the way that this expresses with me now is that when I think I have some problem with somebody or some situation, I sit with it for long enough until I see the truth of it, which is that there's some part of me inside that has a problem with the circumstance or situation. And so like switching that or focusing on that, when you get to peace with that part of it, the outside, it just resolves itself because it's only a reflection. And that I think was almost like the matrix opened up a little bit, where, wow, it's not actually about what that person did. And it's not about bypassing what that person did either, because it's very easy to be like, it's fine, whatever. But it's about going inside and actually getting to full alignment and full wholeness, I'll say, around whatever situation you're dealing with. And then the forgiveness comes, but it comes as a result of, usually for me, like empathy for the other person. Because when I get to a place of wholeness inside myself, I realize, wow, I was really hurting inside, and they must really be hurting too. Or it comes in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, man. I think that's the piece. Like when you see it within yourself, you can see it in another. When you can see how you were betraying yourself, it wasn't them betraying you, you betrayed yourself. Then you can see how they were betraying themselves, and then it makes them easier to forgive. But until you can come into deep right relationship with you and the relationships that you, the multi-dimensional interconnected web of relationships that you are, the multi-dimensional being that you are, it's really hard to actually see through the eyes of others. Like, you have to learn to see through the eyes of your own parts before you can learn to see through the eyes of others. And ultimately, getting to a deep state of forgiveness of other is the ability to truly come into compassion around they were doing the best they could. Hurt people. And when you can see their hurt because you can see your own, and when you can come into deep right relationship and compassion with the way that you betrayed yourself, with the way that you may be unconsciously betraying others, when you may have these shadow elements that you so want to dismiss in another within you. And I found this over and over and over again. The things that I judge in others are actually things that I'm judging within myself. And it's taken me a long time to come to peace with, like, man, I can't spot it. If I spot it, I got it. And that is a level of also then freedom. Because again, then if you can forgive yourself for judging, for hurting, for being dark, for being manipulative, for being controlling, and you can start to get honest with you, it just makes it so much easier to actually forgive another. And Ho'oponopono is one of my favorite tools for forgiveness. You know, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you just do that towards yourself. And you write out all the ways that you're sorry, all the ways you're asking for forgiveness, like all the ways that you're saying gratitude and thank you, and then an authentic, genuine I love you. It's a powerful clearing technology. It's like if there's a wound it's like an arm. Like if you have a wound, like forgiveness, this is the best way one of my friends actually explained this to me, Alexander. He was talking about how if there's a wound, forgiveness is like the wash. It's like it washes the wound, it cleans it so that the wound can heal. And that's really how I see it with yourself. Like when you forgive self, you clear the wound so that it can just heal itself. It's almost like the parts just dissolve and they start to become more harmonious on their own. Same with relationship. When you forgive authentically from this space of self-forgiveness expressed outwards, which is authentic forgiveness, because you can't give someone else grace you don't give yourself. And so when you can give yourself the grace, you have a felt, experienced, embodied imprint of that grace, and now that grace gets brought forward into another human being, that then washes the relationship. I still remember the first time I asked for forgiveness from my father for a deep hurt that I'd caused him. It washed the wound, and it was the beginning of a new relationship with him. It cleared the past. It created space for something new to emerge. And so I really see these technologies of forgiveness, self and other, and even God. If you have a qualm with God, you know, like, God, why, I can't believe you would do this again. It's like, to me, coming back to these, like, it's like forgive. That to me is like the greatest mirror for where you're not forgiving yourself. You know, it's like, and as you come into deeper relationship with the parts of, if God is human as well, if God is also unconditional love, if you are unconditional love, and if God is unconditional love, like, there are no mistakes. It's all here to help you learn lessons about you. And that is a terribly difficult thing to do when everything is breaking in your life. But I also encourage that depth of humility. There's a real beauty to embracing humility in your journey of becoming and unbecoming, because forgiveness really does require it. Like, you cannot be in your high horse and forgive. You cannot be attached and forgive. You cannot be in this cycle of I am right and forgive. There is a humility and a softening and I believe this is, again, a master skill, and you learn this, and it's done in practice. It's like, start with self. This is where I think it's like Where are you not in right relationship with you? Where have you abandoned you? Where have you rejected you? Where have you betrayed you? Where have you humiliated you? Where have you truly been unfair, acted out of justice with you? And can you clear that karmic debt through the lens of forgiveness? And from that lens, now bring that light forward into the world.
And one thing that comes up is this question of like, well, how would I forgive myself in those scenarios? And I think recognizing that, like you were saying before, we do the best we can with what we have at the time. And even if it really doesn't seem like it, if you've done or said or felt something that is, it's really hard to find the good in that or the adaptation in that. I find that, coming back to, well, there's a reason that happened. There's a reason that I did that. And there has to be some sort of either survival nature in me or some adaptation that occurred. And for me, I had this very strong judgment for a long time that childhood innocence and naivete was bad. And that how could I ever have allowed myself to be so innocent that I would get destroyed by life? And I'd held this strong judgment towards that. And it led me to kind of becoming extremely hard in my teenage life. And people would say like, oh, dude, you act like a grandpa. Like you're not even fun and all these things. And I didn't understand why that was. And I had to go back and forgive myself for that. But in that, I found the recognition that all that my body and my nervous system was trying to do was protect me again. And when I found that, and I was like, oh, you're actually trying to protect me. You weren't there to try to shut things down or hurt other people or hurt myself even. You were just trying to protect me from pain that happened once. And I can actually forgive myself for that and allow myself to accept that innocent childlike part of me was this beautiful part of me that can be reintegrated back into now.
Oh, dude.
And
I love that you're bringing like the frame of story into this, because as you were speaking, I was like, self-forgiveness, like it's been a hard journey for me. It's been a hard journey. I remembered, I'll just give one example since we're talking examples now. When I got out of my 9-year relationship, it was one of the hardest decisions because it was one of those, like, there was a deep part of me that knew I wasn't supposed to be in that relationship, but because I was afraid of breaking up, of losing my friends, and I was unfaithful in the relationship. Like there were so many things I was afraid of coming out that I stayed in the relationship for a long time, and I took up time for her, and I felt so ashamed when we broke up, and so much guilt. And I remembered it took me almost 2 years of deep forgiveness work, and like I still hadn't gotten there. And it wasn't until I was actually able to look back and see how my heart closed after my first breakup. Like I had my first kind of big heartbreak in college. It was and it wasn't a crazy relationship. It was this woman that I really wanted something with, and she broke my heart in the hardest of ways. And I remembered after that moment, I decided that I wasn't going to let that happen to me, and I was going to disconnect. And that then bled into my next relationship, and that caused the fear, because I knew that if we were to break up, then I would have to feel all the depths of that grief and that sadness, and I didn't want to. But being able to see my goodness and see how my pain created these patterns in my life, and then how those patterns then contributed to pain for another. And now, at the time I was in a new relationship, and I really saw the purpose. It's like, wow, like forgiving myself isn't selfish. It's actually allowing me to transform these life stories and these life experiences into purpose for me and how I want to show up in relationship moving forward. Like, I'm very proud of how I show up for my partner. I'm very proud of how I am in relationship. And I think you can only activate the gifts through forgiveness. Like, if you truly don't forgive yourself, you are holding on to some narrative that you are not worthy of love, you are not worthy of forgiveness, you are not worthy. And how does that dynamic play out in your life with your people? Like, and so to me, there's a great responsibility to forgive yourself, because when you forgive yourself, you are actually saying, I am a good human being who was born and made choices and made mistakes and screwed over people and hurt people. And I don't have to let that be my past. I can choose to live a new life. And in order to truly live a life that is honoring of all the pain I offered and created, I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive myself. And that was one of the biggest shifts. I remember there was a woman, I was in a healing container. It was actually an RTA retreat. Mm-hmm. It was an RTA retreat with Jessie. She was sharing something that she had gone through in her life. And Gina was there, and Gina was moving through her own process at the time. And I couldn't hold space for that because I hadn't forgiven myself deeply. And there were, and so it was like this moment of like, oh, Raj, like, you got to forgive yourself for all of the wrongs, anything you feel you're holding on to, so you can actually be the light that you are. So you can actually show up as the light. And I feel like all of us have that potential. All of us have mistakes we've made. And what would it look like to turn our pain, our mistakes, our grievances into purpose? How can we forgive ourselves and then help others not make the same mistakes? How can we forgive ourselves and then devote and pour into the people in our lives, or say the sorries, or clear the air, whatever it is? But like, there's this process of you really taking responsibility and ownership for the gift that you are in the world. And I think forgiveness and self-forgiveness is a big part of that. It's a big part of seeing the perfection of your life. Because if you truly saw the perfection of your life, you wouldn't have a hard time forgiving yourself. Because you could see how this experience led to that, led to this, then brought you here. And now what are you going to do with who you are? How are you going to show up with what you've learned today? The true mark of being able to do that is to get to forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all on purpose.
It's all on purpose. It's all on time. And forgiveness is a daily technology. You can use it every day. I forgive myself. You don't even know what you don't even know what you're forgiving yourself for. It's more powerful if you know, I believe.
Yeah.
But also just directing it towards self. If you just direct it towards you, the inner child within you, that's a great starting point. Just truly like ask, like say the Ho'oponopono prayer to your inner child. And if you just make that a practice, like you will be surprised how much that little one opens up, releases, shows you. Like your inner child in many ways, like I find for me, is like my brilliance. It's my intuition. It's my access to everything, all God. And when he feels like I'm actually on his side and I take ownership for how I let him down, the beauty and the worlds he opens up for me are just so beyond comprehension. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like that's a true gift for all of us. And that's true self-love. True self-love is repairing the relationship you have with your inner child. It's not about repairing the relationship with somebody else. It's an inside job, to your point around Sadhguru's moment. So yeah, I hope this podcast really inspires you listening, watching, to really advocate for yourself and to choose forgiveness of self and to go deeper into your forgiveness practice so you can be a beacon of light for more people in the world. And you can be more liberated and free if that's what drives you. Whatever drives you, service for other or activating your own inner peace and your own inner light, wherever you are in your journey, this is a really powerful tool that I feel is so accessible. It's not, you don't have to pay for it. You literally heard about this on this podcast. You can put it into action with a journal. And there's deeper nuances to forgiveness. You can write a letter of forgiveness to yourself. You can burn letters and then burn them. You can bury them. You can throw them away. You can dissolve them. So many ways to alchemize this depth of forgiveness. And, maybe forgiveness might be paired with anger, and there's ways to release anger, primal screaming, there's punching things. There's like a way to like play with the alchemy of what your inner parts need and want. And to me, mastering that game is mastering the art of living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful conversation.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for holding space for it. And everybody, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Stay Grounded. I'm your host, Raj. This is your old friend, Alex. And from us, stay grounded. We'll chat soon.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Stay Grounded. No matter where you're from or what you're going through, I hope it helps you remember just how incredible you are and have always been. If you're on a path of emotional healing or self-discovery and would like to learn how Liberate can support your journey, head to www.rajana.com/liberate. That is LIBER8 to learn more about our current group programs and one-on-one offerings. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.